And Secretary Duque started talking about variants and it's really dangerous and, you know, even if they are tested, you know, they can still be, it can be a false negative. I could see that the President's heart was really for the OFWs and ROFs. He understood why I had to do this. I thank the President. I heard him clearly when he said, Gwen, you are a proactive leader. So we will have to study what you are doing.
Yo, what's up mga lods? It's Megan Peps TV. Welcome back po sa aking YouTube channel. Ngayong araw po na ito mga lods, papakita ko sa inyo kung paano po ipinahiya ni Governor Gwen si Secretary Duque. Dahil nga po dito sa walang katapusang lockdown, MECQ, MGCQ, eto po, pumunta po si Governor Gwen sa Malacañang upang ipakita po sa kanya ang naisip po niyang pamamaraan na dito po sa Cebu, nababawasan na po paunti-unti ang kanilang kaso ng COVID mga lods. Pero bago po tayo magsimula mga lods, kung hindi pa po kayo nakakapag-subscribe sa aking YouTube channel, please click the subscribe button and click nyo rin po yung notification bell para lagi kayong update sa mga video kong ina-upload. And ayan po, meron po tayong 20-in-1 coffee mix. Live po dyan po, kung gusto nyo pong umorder, nandyan po sa description ang link kung saan po kayo pwede umorder. And nga po mga lods, no, dahil nga po dito kay Governor Gwen, napahiya po si Secretary Duque ng DOH. Dahil nga po, di ba siya po ang dapat makaisip ng solusyon. Pero eto po, si Governor Gwen, inilatag po kay Prrd ang kanyang naging solusyon kung bakit po mababa na po ang kaso ng COVID cases sa kanila pong lugar dyan po sa Cebu. At take note mga lods, hindi po sila nagsara ng mga establishmento, kaya po unti-unting nakakaangat din po ang kanilang lugar nang hindi po sila nagla-lockdown mga lods. Ito po mga lods, tunghayan po natin ang paliwanag po ni Governor Gwen. Importante po ito, lalong-lalo na po sa mga OFW natin. Panoorin nyo po ito. At sa tingin ko po, dito na po masisibak si Secretary Duque. Kapag napatunayan po ni Prrd, ang solusyon po ni Governor Gwen ay mas epektibo kaysa po sa mga pinagsasabi po ni Duque yan po sa Malacañang. Ito na po mga lods, si Governor Gwen, panoorin po natin.
Have we experienced an uncontrollable surge? I would dare say not. Yes, we have had spikes and then the attendant decrease. In spite of the fact, think about it, while others would resort to immediate lockdowns, each time there is a surge or an increase of cases, we have not. And yet, if you look at our graph, it continues to go on an up and down basis. But our economy has started to recover. People are now slowly trying to pick up the pieces of their lives shattered by all of those restrictions that have been imposed, causing businesses to close, jobs lost, and livelihoods gone. Now, we are slowly putting the economy on track. According to Dr. Yango, masuko gini mo ning mga bright nga consultant sa DOH. Unsa ni? Ikaw ro istorya?
Eastern Visayas and Western Visayas and some cities, wala pa ni siya ma-part ani, so maybe lower ba ang itong rank.
So in this report, because we just got their figures from DOH, in this report, Eastern Visayas, Western Visayas, and some cities, provinces from Central Luzon that is not part of NCR Plus were not included. Therefore, I wish that they would read this, because this is their own statement, DOH. Therefore, rankings for Central Visayas cities/provinces may be lower. Oh, they're the ones arguing against their own numbers. But we are, ang pinakaduol siguro, Negros, number 19. All the rest, di asa 21, 23, 24, 26, 27 with the possibility nga mas lower pa gyud ta. Okay, there are other parts in Eastern Visayas, Western Visayas, and Central Luzon that have not been included yet. So I hope that they would read their own figures rather than every time they face the media, they focus on Central Visayas, cases rising. Well, cases rise and cases fall. But are we managing? That's the big question there. If you cannot manage, then we have a problem. Houston, we have a problem. If you can't manage it. So it's time that perhaps instead of ostracizing us, Cebu, and claiming that we are defiant, we are not following, violating, why don't you try and look just what we may actually be doing right? Because perhaps, I'm not saying for all, but perhaps it may be applicable to some other LGUs. Before you make broad policies, standing firmly by your firm commitment to a one whole of nation approach, please look at the figures and realize that we LGUs are not similarly situated in terms of COVID active cases, in terms of COVID-19 response protocols, and in terms of geography. That's the most simple. So I decided to give a report. I do not always make this a daily thing, but I felt that this was time to speak out. And I did this prior to my report about my meeting last night with President Rodrigo Roa Duterte, because I know that several media outfits are also monitoring this particular live press conference. Last night, after the PDP Laban National Council meeting, where I delivered the welcome remarks as Governor of Cebu, since the National Council meeting was held right here in Cebu, we flew to Manila. With me was Secretary Michael Dino, Presidential Assistant for the Visayas, Dr. Jean Loreche, our Chief Pathologist at the Department of Health, Mr. Edmund Liu of the Project Balik Buhay, and General Mel Feliciano of the Chief Implementer for the Visayas. And we reached Malacañang at around 6:06. We had to subject ourselves to the health protocols such as the rapid test and all. So we finally saw the President at around 7 in the evening. And he was accompanied by Secretary Anyo, Secretary Duque, Secretary Harry Roque, Secretary Delphine Lorenzana, and Secretary Galvez, as well as, of course, Senator Bongo. And the President stated that it seems that in Cebu, you are not following the IATF guidelines. So what is this? You have to follow. Although, on the same breath, he also said that I do recognize the help of the local government units in the implementation of policies, and it is the local government units that are actually on the ground. The President, having served as mayor himself of the city of Davao for 27 years, I know that local governance is close to his heart, and he understands how it is running a city or a province. So I explained. I believe that for most of our fellow Filipinos, you are already aware of the difference. But for those who do not, may I repeat, EO 17, subsequently supported by a provincial ordinance, states that upon arrival, ROFs and OFWs are swabbed, and this is what I told the President, and then they are brought to the hotel. They wait for 2 days. For Cebuanos, If they are tested negative, they go home to their LGUs and they are swabbed again on the 7th day. They continue the required 14-day quarantine at home. For non-Cebuanos, we ask them to go back to their own provinces, where they shall subject themselves to the health protocols of that particular province. I said that we have not, the way I see it, Mr. President, we are in fact innovating to make it more effective for us. I also pointed out that we saw a steady increase of cases after the 5-day testing rule was implemented, where the returning Filipinos would first be brought to the hotel and they would only be tested on the 5th day. So that when we implemented by March 31st, going back to the old procedure of testing upon arrival, we saw the steady decrease of cases. And I said, in fact, in Cebu, we have made it even stricter in the sense that it is not a single swab. We swab twice because once the returning Filipino goes back to his home or his family, he is swabbed again on the 7th day. And then I brought out the humanitarian aspect. Said, Mr. President, these OFWs do not come home to have a good time, actually. Sometimes they do not even have enough cash to pay for the ticket. They borrow money or do a cash advance. And then they come home because there is a reason. It's in times of emergency. It's either that there's a member of the family who is very sick or someone has died and they are just trying to come home to pay their last respects and say their last goodbyes. We have to look at the humanitarian aspect here because I know how much you love the OFWs, who we all agree are our unsung heroes. They work abroad. They go through so much hardship in order that they may make the lives of their family a little better. And in fact, they are the pre-COVID, they were the single biggest dollar earner for the country. Now, while this new policy would put further strain on the OWA, because instead of paying for 2 days, this policy of IITF requires a 10-day stay in the hotel, which means that would multiply by 5 the cost. Worst is the strain on returning Filipinos where there is no OWA. And they would have to pay. And they will not be paying the discounted rates of OWA. In Cebu, it's 1/4. But they would have to pay the standard hotel rates of 3,000 to 5,000. So 30,000 to 50,000. You know, that amount of cash can do so much to help their family, and yet they spend it in the hotel. I could see how the president really felt for the OFWs and the returning Filipinos. But he asked for Secretary Duque's opinion, and Secretary Duque started talking about variants, and it's really dangerous, and even if they are tested, they can still be, it can be a false negative, and then when they go home, they may be there's the transmission. And I said, I'm sorry, but if you do not believe the first test, and that's RT-PCR, then why must we conduct another test on the 7th day? What makes the first day test different from the 7th day test if you do not believe that if a person is negative, that is possibly false negative? What about on the 7th day? Well, you wait for that stretch. How do we monitor these returning Filipinos? We do not have enough hotel staff. How do we know they will not have interaction with hotel staff? And if they are in fact infected, they could already cause what you are afraid of, transmission. Well, Secretary Anyo said, you are probably showing that it's working, but what if other regions will do the same and nobody will follow anymore because they will have their own way? Well, My answer to that was, shouldn't it be the other way? Like, if you see something working, wouldn't it be worth it to study it? And perhaps find out why it's working? And see if this could perhaps be applied to other regions? If you were to be very, very strict about it, we are only arguing about the hotel stay, which is a heavy financial burden and a heavy emotional burden on our both OFWs and ROFs, away from their families, especially in times of emergency, the very reason why they came home. Si Senator Bongo, and I have to say this, he really spoke up for the Cebuanos and the ROFs and OFWs. So we have to thank Senator Bongo. He said that, I've been to Cebu, Mr. Mayor, he calls the President Mayor. I've been to Cebu together with E.S. Medialdia. Cebu is doing good, doing fine. We can see that how they are facing this crisis is in a way that they are able to manage and able to, in fact, open the economy now and tourism. So, and I also know what a heavy burden this is for our OFWs and ROFs, because I get all of these calls asking for help. See, Senator Bongo. So he spoke up for this, and he said it's really worth studying how Cebu is doing it. I could see that the President's heart was really for the OFWs and ROFs. I mean, he's a very sincere person, so I could see that. He also understood the duty that all local chief executives face, the accountability to the people that we carry every day. Advisors and even unelected officials, they have no accountability but to the appointing power only. Our accountability is to the people. And he understood why I had to do this. In fact, I thank the President. I heard him clearly when he said, Gwen, you're a very proactive leader, and that is good. So we will have to study what you are doing. In the meantime, national policy must be followed. And however, we do not admit that we are perfect. I do not want to be those that I have recently criticized, that they have with their hypotheses come up with policies that severely burden people because they have based all of this on their presumptions and speculations.
Could they at least give a day as to when they would have the final say on it?
He was given until Thursday. Si Secretary Duque. In fact, the President repeated that.